In the dark corners of the American psyche lies a tale of intellect gone rogue. It's a story that intertwines brilliance with madness, idealism with terror. This is the story of Ted Kaczynski, better known as the Unabomber. For nearly 2 decades, from 1978 to 1995, a series of bombings terrorized America. Seemingly random, these attacks targeted universities, airlines, and various individuals, leaving a trail of destruction and fear. The perpetrator? A reclusive mathematician with a manifesto that would challenge the very fabric of modern society. This is the story of how one man's vision of a world gone awry turned into a deadly campaign against the very technology and industrialism he abhorred. Join us as we delve into the mind of America's most enigmatic domestic terrorist, exploring the intricate web of his life, his motives, and the hunt that finally brought him to justice. Prepare yourself for a journey into the dark heart of a twisted genius. This is the story of the Unabomber. Long before he became the notorious Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski was a quiet boy growing up in the heart of post-war America. Born on May 22, 1942, in Chicago, Illinois, Theodore John Kaczynski seemed like any other child. His parents, Wanda and Theodore Kaczynski, were hard-working and dedicated to providing a loving home. But from an early age, Ted stood out. A child prodigy with an IQ of 167, he skipped multiple grades and found solace in the world of mathematics and science. However, his extraordinary intellect set him apart, leading to isolation and social difficulties. At just 16, Ted entered Harvard University on a scholarship. The pressures of academia and a controversial psychological study he participated in began to shape his worldview, planting the seeds of distrust and disillusionment with society. As Ted delved deeper into his studies, his interactions with peers grew increasingly strained. The brilliant young mathematician was slowly withdrawing into himself, paving the way for the reclusive life he would later lead. The early years of Ted Kaczynski's life were marked by promise and potential, but beneath the surface, a darker transformation was beginning to take hold. This journey from prodigy to pariah would eventually culminate in a violent manifesto against modern society. After completing his undergraduate studies at Harvard, Ted Kaczynski pursued a PhD in mathematics at the University of Michigan. Despite his academic success, he began to distance himself from those around him. His brilliance in mathematics was undeniable. He published several papers that earned him respect in his field. But his social interactions grew increasingly strained, and he found little satisfaction in academic life. In 1969, Kaczynski abruptly resigned from his position at the University of California, Berkeley, where he had been teaching. He retreated to a remote cabin in Lincoln, Montana, seeking a simpler, more solitary existence. Living off the grid, he aimed to become entirely self-sufficient. He hunted, foraged, and grew his own food. The isolation deepened his contempt for modern society, which he saw as corrupt and dehumanizing. In the stillness of the Montana wilderness, Ted's thoughts grew darker. His disdain for the industrial technological system turned into a fervent belief that he had to take drastic action to awaken society to its destructive path. In the seclusion of his cabin, Kaczynski meticulously planned a campaign of terror. He believed that only through violence could he force society to confront the perils of technological advancement. Ted Kaczynski, once a promising scholar, had transformed into the Unabomber, a figure who would instill fear across the nation and challenge the very fabric of modern civilization. From 1978 to 1995, a series of deadly packages began appearing across the United States. What started as isolated incidents soon revealed a chilling pattern orchestrated by a single individual, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber.
Another bomb had gone off at Northwestern University, seriously injuring.
On May 25, 1978, the first bomb attributed to the Unabomber exploded at Northwestern University, injuring a campus police officer. This marked the beginning of a 17-year-long bombing campaign that would terrorize the nation. Kaczynski's targets were carefully chosen to symbolize the institutions he believed were perpetuating technological domination. Universities, airlines, and individuals connected to the advancement of technology became the focus of his wrath.
There were construction techniques, the way the wood was cut, the way it was put together, the markings on the wood, the way the tape was applied, that is evident in the photographs, was the same as in the previous cases.
Each bomb was meticulously crafted, often disguised in mundane packages, making detection nearly impossible. From his remote cabin, Kaczynski built and mailed bombs, each more sophisticated than the last. His ability to evade capture baffled law enforcement and instilled widespread fear. The Unabomber was incredibly elusive. He left very few clues, and his bombs were sophisticated and deadly. We were dealing with someone who was not only intelligent, but also deeply committed to his cause. Despite the FBI's best efforts, Kaczynski remained a step ahead. His ability to disappear into the vast wilderness after each attack frustrated investigators and heightened public fear. In 1995, the world got an unprecedented glimpse into the mind of the Unabomber. Ted Kaczynski demanded that his 35,000-word manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future, be published, threatening to continue his deadly campaign if his demand was not met. The manifesto laid bare Kaczynski's vehement opposition to industrialization and modern technology. He argued that technological advancements were eroding human freedom and autonomy, creating a society where individuals were subjected to the control of large organizations and the system itself. Kaczynski's writing resonated with some, who saw elements of truth in his critique of modern society. Others viewed it as the deranged ramblings of a madman. He detailed how technology was dehumanizing individuals and leading to widespread psychological suffering. The publication of the manifesto proved to be a turning point in the investigation. Among the millions who read it was David Kaczynski, Ted's brother, who recognized the writing style and themes from letters Ted had sent over the years. The manifesto remains a controversial artifact, a chilling reflection of one man's war against the modern world, and a stark reminder of the thin line between genius and madness. On April 3, 1996, in the remote wilderness of Montana, a nearly two-decade-long manhunt came to an end. Ted Kaczynski, the elusive Unabomber, was captured by the FBI in a small, rudimentary cabin that had been his home and his bomb-making workshop. Inside the cabin, agents discovered a wealth of evidence linking Kaczynski to the bombings, bomb-making materials, detailed journals chronicling his crimes, and a live, ready-to-mail bomb. The meticulous records he kept provided a clear picture of his intentions and methods. The capture was the result of a crucial tip from Kaczynski's own brother, David. After reading the published manifesto, David recognized the distinctive writing style and philosophical views of his estranged brother and alerted authorities. A decision fraught with personal anguish and moral complexity. Ted Kaczynski was charged with multiple counts of murder and other offenses related to his bombing campaign. His trial would become one of the most high-profile cases in American history. In court, Kaczynski's defense team planned to argue that he was mentally ill, aiming for an insanity plea. However, Ted fiercely opposed this strategy, insisting he was sane and that his actions were a rational response to the destructive nature of technological society. Facing overwhelming evidence, and to avoid the death penalty, Kaczynski ultimately agreed to a plea deal. On January 22, 1998, he pleaded guilty to all charges, receiving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Ted Kaczynski was sentenced to life in prison at ADX Florence, a supermax facility in Colorado, where he remains to this day. His cell, much like his Montana cabin, is a stark, solitary space. The capture and trial of Ted Kaczynski closed a dark chapter in American history. His bombing campaign and the ideology he espoused continue to provoke debate about the impact of technology on society and the fine line between dissent and violence. The story of the Unabomber is a haunting reminder of how isolation, intellectual extremism, and a fractured psyche can combine to unleash devastating consequences. Kaczynski's story is not just a tale of terror and violence. It's a complex narrative that forces us to confront profound questions about technology, society, and human nature. His manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future, remains a controversial document. Despite its violent origins, the manifesto's critique of modern technology has found a surprisingly receptive audience in some circles. It warns of the dehumanizing effects of industrialization and the loss of individual autonomy. The anxieties Kaczynski capitalized on have only grown. In an age of pervasive surveillance, data breaches, and environmental degradation, his warnings about the unchecked advance of technology seem increasingly prescient. Ted's brother, David Kaczynski, turned his family's tragedy into a mission for change. He became an advocate for mental health awareness and ethical decision-making, emphasizing the importance of compassion and support in preventing such tragedies. Kaczynski's cabin, now a museum exhibit, stands as a stark reminder of his isolated life and the drastic measures he took. It forces visitors to reflect on the thin line between genius and madness and the potential for brilliant minds to veer into destructive paths. The Unabomber case has become a subject of study in ethics, psychology, and criminology courses. It serves as a case study in the dangers of radicalization and the importance of addressing societal grievances before they turn violent. The legacy of Ted Kaczynski is a complex one. It's a story of a brilliant mind twisted by isolation and extremist beliefs, but also a cautionary tale about the future we are creating. His life challenges us to think critically about the direction of technological progress and the kind of society we want to build. As we move further into the digital age, the questions Kaczynski posed remain relevant. How do we balance technological progress with human freedom? Can we harness innovation without losing our autonomy? The legacy of the Unabomber forces us to confront these complex dilemmas. From a secluded cabin in the woods to the halls of justice, Kaczynski's journey is a stark reminder of the delicate balance between human ingenuity and the perils of unchecked progress. His story is one of brilliance turned dark, of radical beliefs leading to a campaign of terror. But it's also a story that forces us to question the world we are building and the price we pay for progress. His journey from a brilliant mathematician to a notorious terrorist is a cautionary tale of how idealism can turn into fanaticism. His life serves as a reminder of the thin line between genius and madness, and the dangerous path that lies between vision and violence. As we navigate an ever-changing technological landscape, the questions he raised about freedom, autonomy, and the future of humanity remain more relevant than ever. Can we find a balance, or are we doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past? In understanding the Unabomber, we confront not just the man, but the broader societal issues he sought to challenge. It is a story that compels us to look inward, to question our own relationship with the world we are rapidly transforming. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life and legacy of the Unabomber. Stay curious, stay informed, and remember, the choices we make today shape the world of tomorrow. Subscribe for more in-depth documentaries and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay vigilant and keep questioning.